All right, diabetics, it's time to talk about carbohydrates from fiber. Soluble, insoluble, it doesn't matter. But will carbs from fiber affect our blood sugar as diabetics? And if we're in a keto diet, will enjoying a little bit of this knock us out of keto? Let's find out. So if you're new to diabetes or diabetes management, or maybe you're just trying to make sure you get your A1C as low as possible, and you do the diet research, you're probably going to come across low carbohydrate diets. Now, whether that be Atkins, the carnivore diet, keto, whatever, that's going to be part of the conversation. And the key to all of these is minimizing the amount of carbohydrates you take in on a day-to-day basis. The result is your blood sugar will probably level out at a much lower normal state than what you're used to, simply because your body's not having to compete with the carbohydrates you're taking in. But that leaves so many questions about what is and isn't low carb when you start talking about carbs from fiber. And I'm going to stay focused on the fiber piece of this because there are carbohydrates from things like sugar, alcohols, etc. that you can also reduce from your overall carbohydrate total from that meal that you're eating. But I'm keeping this confined to the discussion about fiber, carbs from fiber. And what I mean about carbs from fiber is if you look on the back of a package of a snack or a piece of bread or a tortilla, for example, that you're about to enjoy as part of your low carbohydrate meal, because on the front of that package it says net carbs 1, 3, 4, 0 in some cases, like the bread I have in the example. And you're trying to figure out whether or not that's actually low carb. Like, what is a net carb? And on the back of that package, you're gonna see they do the math for you. You've got the carbs and then carbs from, and they're probably gonna take fiber and whatever sugar alcohols are included and subtract that from the carb total. So, an average package of Mission low carb tortillas, for example, is gonna have 32 grams of total carbs. But once you reduce all the fiber from that total, they give you a net carb amount of 3 grams. And you think to yourself, perfect, my target's 25 grams of carbohydrates for today, 3 grams of net carbs fits right within that, and then you enjoy that tortilla and your blood sugar goes through the roof because you didn't account for the total carbs for your insulin, and perhaps you do your ketosis measurement, whether you're using urine strips or a finger prick like the Keto Mojo, and all of a sudden you're out of keto. What happened? Well, if you're a pancreatic healthy human being like my wife, for example, who loves to cycle in and out of keto with me as I go through these different diets, she can enjoy a net carb piece of bread or a tortilla with 2 or 3 grams of net carbs, stay in ketosis and have an absolute enjoyable meal and not have to worry about it. As diabetics, we don't have the luxury of ignoring total carbs for net carbs. So for example, if I were to go back upstairs, make a sandwich out of that bread that I had in the example, use cheese, a lean meat, a little bit of mayo maybe, and then those 2 pieces of bread, the filling of that sandwich for me is going to be 0 carbs. And it is 0 carbs. It's primarily fat and protein. But those 2 pieces of bread combined are about 40 grams of total carbs, even though the package says 0. When I go to adjust my insulin for that meal, I have to account for the 40 grams of carbohydrates, not the net carbs, total carbs. And accounting for those carbs allows me to keep my blood sugar where it needs to be. It doesn't spike as much as a normal piece of bread might, but I still need to account for it from a blood sugar standpoint. But then there's the ketosis question. Will eating those 2 pieces of low carb or 0 carb, net carb I should say, pieces of bread kick me out of keto? And in my experience, the answer has been no. It might send my blood sugar on a rise if I don't do my insulin properly, but from a ketosis standpoint, they're somewhat correct. Now, if you listen to Dr. Ken Berry, he's an amazing YouTuber, family physician who has a long history, thousands of videos on keto and type 1, type 2 diabetic mitigation. Again, Dr. Ken Berry, he's worth a follow. When he talks about keto, he does talk about dirty keto versus clean keto. And dirty keto being, I'm welcome to go to the grocery store and pick up, keto friendly or keto safe snacks off the shelf, etc. And then there's clean keto where you ignore all of that. For the past month and a half, I have been purely clean keto, just in an effort to see what would change for me from a blood sugar standpoint. I can assure you, I've been in ketosis now for a good 60 days without fail. Every morning I check it with my Keto Mojo strips, and my blood sugar has gone from an average of about 145 total glucose to now less than about 120. I would assume my A1C is about 6.1 to 6.0. I haven't had it checked. I will when I'm done with this particular diet cycle, and I'll let you know. So for us diabetics, whether you're a type 1 or a type 2, it doesn't matter. For us diabetics, it's important to recognize that the information on the packaging is going to be misleading when it comes to managing your disease. So if the packaging says 1 or 2 net carbs, you still need to flip that thing over and figure out how many total carbohydrates are in what you're about to enjoy. And if you're using insulin to mitigate your diabetes, you need to account for it. If you're trying to stick to a low carb ketogenic diet, I would probably still count the total carbs on the back of that package rather than the net carbs that they're going to display on the front for your carb count. That's going to help you minimize having 6 pieces of that bread as opposed to 2 for a sandwich and thinking you're going to be scot-free and safe when it comes to staying in ketosis. I hope this helps kind of clear up some of the confusion on carbs from fiber and how it relates to diabetes and ketosis. If it did, throw me a comment, give me a like. It really helps the channel. And if you know someone that can benefit from this information, feel free to forward this video off to them, and maybe they can get some benefit from it as well. In the meantime, as always, keep your spirits high, keep your blood sugar steady, and I will see you in the next one.